Hi, everyone. Thanks for checking out the Safe Travels podcast. My name is Joey. We are in Nederland, Colorado, just outside of Rocky Mountain National Park. And today I caught up with an old friend and superhuman being, Mak Regan. Mak is an ultra runner who is currently preparing to thru-hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And in our conversation together, we talked all about physical struggle, her journey as an ultra runner, and of course, her upcoming adventure on one of the world's most famous hiking trails. Well, Mak, this is like that Paul Rudd meme of who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
For background, for the listeners, we've known each other for 15, 16 years, probably longer. We went to elementary school together.
Wait, were you at Settlers Point from like kindergarten on?
I got there in, kindergarten.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's been a long time since we've known each other, but it's also been a long time since we've seen each other.
Yep.
Since... You think sixth grade?
I think sixth grade.
Yeah.
He was too cool for me in junior high.
That's not true. But yeah, it's amazing how in this world our lives cross paths. Yeah. Obviously, both of us being in the outdoor space now, but you are an ultra human. You've accomplished a lot in your life, and certainly wasn't too cool for you in junior high, but you're far too cool for me nowadays.
I don't know about that.
But you've accomplished a whole lot since going to undergrad at University of Arizona, and now you just got your master's degree here in Boulder, Colorado, which congratulations on that.
Thanks. Yeah.
But for folks who haven't met you before online, who are you and what have you been doing and what do your future plans look like here soon?
Yeah. So my name is Mak Regan. I just graduated from CU Boulder. I was originally in a PhD program, and anyone in academia can tell you it's quite a ride. And I mastered out of my program. It was like a weight lifted off of my chest telling my PI that I was mastering out to thru-hike the Pacific Crest Trail. I think he had never heard that before ever, so that was probably a big shock to my PI to hear that. So I'm an ultra runner. I'm just, really involved in the outdoors. I'm a TikToker. I'm a running influencer. I ran the Boston Marathon a few weeks ago, and just getting ready for this big thru-hike next week. So
in this podcast, we're going to chat all about the PCT. What is it? How long it's going to take? I got to spend time with your husband, Max, last night, who's amazing. And he's going to be here for the majority of it, but is going to meet you at some point. So I want to chat through that.
Yeah.
But what inspired your love for the outdoors and for running?
I mean, honestly, my parents were super outdoorsy growing up, and I did not appreciate it. So my parents would take us hiking, camping. Like, some of my best memories were with my parents just somewhere in the outdoors. There's this hike in like Apache Junction called the Flatiron, and it's like 6 miles, 3,000 feet of gain. And when we were 10 years old, my dad would take us as our like 10-year-old hike, which is like, it's a crazy hike as an adult. And so like as a child, hiking that was kind of ridiculous. But those were just like the memories I grew up with. And my mom would call me a billy goat with a bad attitude because I would usually end up running down the trails after because I was just like sick of being out there. And so she would just like, oh, there goes the billy goat with a bad attitude, because I would be running down the trail like just over the hike. So it wasn't until I went to undergrad at U of A that I really got into like trail running, hiking, more of this outdoor space, I guess. And then when I moved to Boulder the summer after I graduated undergrad, that was when I went on my first backpacking trip up here in Nederland, actually. You can see the Continental Divide like from Nederland. And my first backpacking trip was in James Peak Wilderness. It was actually a first date, which is like so crazy. It's a wild story. But after that, like one nighter, then I was like, hey, this is super cool and I want to do more of this. And I went on like a 3 or 4 night loop by myself, and then that just has spiraled. And, now I've run a few 100-milers. I've gone on a 500-mile backpacking trip. I've spent 8 days in the Grand Canyon, backcountry, and then lots of other things in between. So there's just like a core love for the outdoors. I think I owe it to my parents, probably.
What was that shift when you were a kid and maybe you underappreciated the outdoors and being outside, and then to being where you're at now, where you're, spending every second you have outside? How do you look at nature differently than you did maybe when you were as a kid growing up?
Yeah, I think growing up, it was like my parents would call it forced family fun. And it was really, when I was a little, I loved like the camping, the hiking, whatever. It was really the like tween to teen years that I was sort of like, okay, I don't want to be out here. Like, I want to be at home playing on my phone and, doing whatever. And so I think there's like a core appreciation, and then there was like that middle years. And then I kind of just came back to it on my own with this like interest in suffering and this interest in challenging myself that wasn't there before. It was like when I got to undergrad that I sort of gained that appreciation for physical suffering, I guess.
Yeah. So with the physical suffering, is there a side to being outside where you kind of just marvel at what's around you too? Yeah. Is it the settings that you're in?
Oh my gosh. I mean, regularly there is just like this moment of, wow, I can't believe I'm here, especially where we live now in Nederland. Like, the access that we have is unparalleled. Like, we have access to the Divide, like these beautiful mountains, like the 14ers all around us. Like, it is so spectacular living here. And there's just so many moments where I'll be in the middle of, some pretty intense physical suffering, and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I have like a very vivid memory. I've run this 100-miler High Lonesome 100 twice. It's in the Saguache. You're on the Continental Divide. You're on the Colorado Trail. And there was this moment, it was like maybe 5 a.m. and I was going up this, they call it the head wall. It's like a 5,000-foot climb up to Monarch Pass. And like, you're 65 miles deep into this 100-miler, and the sun started coming up, and like, I was in the most physical suffering I'd been in at that point, and like looking around at this beautiful sunrise, and I had my pacer with me, Val, and we were both just like, this is great, like purples, and like the mountains were insane. And it was just a moment of like really intense physical suffering that was alleviated by how gorgeous it was outside. It's just, yeah, there's appreciation for beauty as well, I think.
So when you started running, and you started appreciating the outdoors more, when did you have a moment of realization that this could be a career for you? And when did that switch happen and for it to become a career for you?
Yeah, I mean, almost never was there like, oh, this could like be a job. Like, when I was an undergrad and I was starting to run and trail run and things, it was never like, this could be a career. It was always, I wanted this to be a career. Like, I mean, in trail running, the sport is so different now than it was, 10 plus years ago when I started running. Like, it's not even the same thing at this point. Like, ultrarunning has blown up so much, and we have 200 milers now, and the sport's just a different sport now. But I remember in undergrad, I wanted for sure to like be a creator, post online, like start talking about running online. I definitely looked up to a lot of running like creators. And then it wasn't until I graduated undergrad, I was living in a van in California at my first big girl job, that I started just posting TikToks, like documenting my life, and they started blowing up and doing really well. And I can't believe it. That was 4 years ago. And now here I am. And it's like, yeah, like a career now, which is insane. Like, I have so many cool opportunities and so many things I've gotten to do because of social media and this like basic love for the outdoors and basic love of suffering that I think translates well on social media. And just so many cool things, like getting to run Boston twice. And I never would have gotten to do that like before. So it's just, yeah, it's been a wild ride. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years, to be honest.
And that's why I wanted to talk to you too, because I think your core principle of encouraging people to get outside and start running and enjoying beautiful places like here in Nederland, and we have Rocky Mountain National Park right around the corner, is important. And people like you who have influence online, or communities rather online, that you've spent 4 years building. We talked a little bit last night about like some of your proudest moments are when you get a note online of
Yeah.
people who talk about going outside because they've seen something that you've said or done.
Yeah.
Which is really neat.
Yeah. Like I ran my first 50K because of you, or I ran a 5K because of you. I'm always like pretty deeply touched by those kinds of messages because I don't feel like it's not something I sought out to like be that source of, I guess, inspiration. Like to me, it was always about, documenting what I have going on, and it doesn't feel particularly special what I do. And, especially in a place like Boulder, everyone runs ultras, everyone does this and that, and there's always someone faster, crazier than you in like a 20 square mile like circle here. But it's just I feel deeply honored and grateful and touched every time I get a message or someone runs into me in person and says something really kind to me. It's I'm like, me? Why me? There's so much imposter syndrome, I think. I'm like, really? Me? I did that? Okay. But I'm trying to lean into it. I'm trying to feel less like an imposter. It's been 4 years, so.
Yeah. And you've built a special community, and that says a lot about you. And so you should hang your hat on that because it is special.
Yeah.
But I do want to dive into the PCT. So
yes,
the Pacific Crest Trail is arguably a top 5 most famous trail in the world.
Absolutely.
It is iconic. And there are a number of people who do it or at least attempt it every single year. But for viewers and listeners who are unfamiliar with what the PCT is, what's the high-level overview of the Pacific Crest Trail?
Yeah, the PCT runs from Mexico to Canada. Some people think it's the Pacific Coast Trail. It's the crest. We're in the mountains, a couple 100 miles inland from the coast. 2,600 miles, Mexico to Canada, and you just pass through some of the best terrain in the country, to be honest, like crown jewels of the entire United States, all in one trail. So start in Campo, California. You go through the Mojave Desert, up into the mountains around LA, up into the Sierra, go through all of Washington, up into the Cascade Range, and I'll find myself in Canada in September-ish.
And it's roughly 2,700 miles?
Yeah, 2,650, I think is the official stat.
And there's no right or wrong way to hike the PCT. There's a lot of logistics that go into it. Yeah. You're on in the mountains, on the road, on trails, etc., hiking for 5+ months.
Yeah.
So what are some of the logistics that you're working through currently to get yourself prepared to head out to Campo?
It's a great question. I am very type B, I'm finding out. For me, the main logistic has been just coordinating with some of my sponsors because they want a lot more info than I have. And so I'm making like a very rough timeline. I sent them addresses for some of the trail towns, but for me, it's more of like a heads up, like, hey, I'll be in Idlewild on this date maybe, and really playing it by ear to coordinate with people. So for me, not much. I've got my gear. I booked a flight to San Diego yesterday, so I've got my flight. I fly out on Friday, so pretty much just taking it one day at a time for me. I'm not very logistics oriented, so I prefer to like let it unfold as I go. And it's amazing how much info you get when you're on trail also. Like you're pretty much just taking it town to town. It's like a through hike is basically just a bunch of mini like 50-mile hikes basically from towns to town. So
and why the PCT for you? What inspires you about the PCT?
Yeah, so I read, this is so classic, I read Wild by Cheryl Strayed in, oh my God, probably high school, like middle of high school, end of high school. And honestly, that was probably one of the core like pieces of literature for me that kind of sparked that interest in suffering and the outdoors. So I read that book, and that was where that fundamental like interest in through hiking kind of started, and backpacking in general. And then moved to Colorado that summer and, went on my first backpacking trip. And then that kind of just planted the seed in my head of like, ooh, when am I going to have like a few months to make that happen? And then, the way this whole grad school experience unfolded, my first plan was I will hike the PCT after I graduate with my PhD, which, by the way, would be like 2030 probably. So, a couple of years away from now. And just recognizing like the environment, climate change, like the current administration, all of those things makes you really aware of the fact that, these things might not last forever. And yeah, that was a pretty big driver for me considering leaving grad school beyond like the academia itself and my advisor situation, all of that. So yeah, that sparked it. And I definitely have interest in doing like the CDT. I really want to do the AZT. I think the AZT would be so rad. Just like, that's our home state and it's so iconic. So there's definitely more interest in other thru hikes as well. So
you've done the Colorado Trail.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that, if at all, has prepared you for the PCT?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's funny, like my experience on the Colorado Trail, I think about it almost every day. It was just like so profound and just like the best time of my entire life. Like I look at that month and I'm like, that was the best month of my whole life, literally. Like, and it wasn't that it was stunning views all the time. It wasn't that it was easy. It was like kind of a sufferfest every day and like not necessarily like fun all the time, but there was just so much time in nature and honestly like time spent on your feet, like in the moment, physically suffering and just enjoying every moment of every day, even when it kind of sucked. And I feel like that has prepared me for the headspace for the PCT. And it's almost making me feel like I'm like worried the PCT won't live up to that. Like I had such a great experience on the CT and I'm just like, what if I go back to the PCT and it's not the same? But like, it's all the same. It's all walking with a backpack on your back and appreciation for physical suffering. So I'm really looking forward to these months. And no one regrets the PCT. Never met someone who's regretted hiking the PCT. So
right. There's a lot of history on the PCT from people who have hiked it to just the amazing places that you're going to hike through.
Yeah.
Indigenous history, national parks, so much stuff that you're going through. Are you a person that likes to research and understand some of the areas that you're walking through from a historical perspective, or are you more of just an admirer of kind of your surroundings?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Like, there's some places where I've like deeply appreciated the historical perspective, like the Grand Canyon, for example, is like one of those places. I think for the PCT, I'm in like information overload. Like everyone is giving me their opinion. Everyone's giving me advice. People won't stop talking to me about the PCT, like giving me unsolicited like opinions and advice. And I'm just like in information overload. Like I want to just, step by step walk through these lands and like, all absorb some information. And it's fun to do research, especially in some of these towns. Like I love old mining towns or, old settlements or things like that. So there's that historical perspective, but really think I'm just an admirer. I'm like, I just want to be in the moment, I love being in the moment for sure.
When you're hiking on the trail and going through the suffering that you have mentioned, is there a time at night when you take the pack off and you start to make your camp for the night and rest? Is that when your kind of reflection, your self-reflection on who you are, where you're going, what you want to be kind of kicks in? Or is that a thought process you have while you're on the trail too?
It's funny. Like, so for example, when I went on the Colorado Trail, I thought I was going to have so much time to just think and reflect and have some really deep, profound moments on trail. And I really just found myself so absorbed in like the present moment that I didn't really spend too much time like forcibly reflecting. Like I think whatever thoughts were passing through my head was like moving meditation for 28 days straight, basically, which is rad. So yeah, there's definitely like a moment at the, end of the night where maybe it's raining and thunderstorming outside your tent and you're laying in bed, you open far out and you're doing, we call it map review. Every night you do a map review to see what you're going to hike the next day. I'm doing map review. I'm thinking about where I'm going, where I've come from. There's like a bit of intentional reflection, but it's just so present. Like there's not many moments in our actual daily life where we get to just be so present in the moment. Like, I mean, I find myself thinking about, things from forever ago or the future, or, there's like worries and anxieties that are always coming up. And like, this is my opportunity to just be in the moment, like just be so in the moment. And it's a really special feeling, truly.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
As people can imagine, when you're hiking 2,650 miles, you're also going through various elevation changes and climbs. So your pack that you're carrying with you has to be somewhat light.
Somewhat, yeah.
So what does the gear setup look like for you, and how are you?
Yeah.
Is there anything core that you usually would bring with you that you're just going to have to leave behind on this one to keep you lighter?
That's a good question. It's funny, like on these really long through hikes, you almost bring more like luxuries than you would on a shorter trip, just because, it becomes your life. Like you're up there for months and months. So I'm actually finding that I'm having to carry more things. Like I would never bring rain pants ever. Like I would never bring rain pants. And that is something that, again, a lot of people have very mixed opinions about, but I'm now like, oh, I should bring this because it would be really miserable to be soaking wet and 3 days from town and not have a chance to dry out. So yeah, there's just, I've got some core pieces of gear that I bring on every trip. I'm obsessed with my sleeping bag. I have a 20-degree sleeping bag that I love more than anything. I'm actually really looking forward to getting to sleep in my sleeping bag and on my sleeping pad again. So there's just like those core pieces of gear that, I love and I appreciate. And I'm excited to, have all my things on my back and just carry it for few months.
How are you handling your food situation? I know there's various philosophies on that. Shipping your food to outposts,
for sure.
First carrying a variety of food with you.
Yeah.
What does your logistics look like in that sense?
Yeah, so, like some people, and this is more rare now, some people will ship all of their resupplies to towns. I do not fall into that camp. It's more common now to do a mixture of sending yourself things, but also resupplying at grocery stores in towns. So I'm doing a bit of both this time around. So I think like the longest stretch would probably be, 100, 120 miles between towns, which probably 5 to 6 days of food, depending where I am on trail, which gets heavy. 5 days of food is so heavy, it feels like. So I think just, really figuring out how to be efficient with like calorie to weight ratio and just make the most of those resupplies. I'm going to be eating a lot of candy bars.
I was about to ask what type of food you typically bring with you on those types of trips. Are you, do you do a lot of the freezer dried food as well?
Not really. It's kind of like a lot of space to carry those kinds of meals, and they're expensive.
Yeah.
And they're so like inaccessible for a lot of people. I'm a big fan of the ramen bomb, and I'm going to add Dorito dust to it. That sounds like so good to me right now, actually.
Yeah. For context on that, I met somebody at Yosemite who was doing a hike from Yosemite down to Death Valley, because that hike is iconic because you cross over the highest point in the lower 48 and then go down to the lowest point in North America. And so he was doing that, and he had told me that he has food and he sprinkles Cheeto or Dorito dust because it's the most calorie dense food he can.
Which is brilliant. It's so brilliant.
Yeah. So he had just a big bag of like crunched up Doritos that he just like almost like salsa, like puts on the top of all of his food and then eats it. And that way
it's
filled
delicious
with calories.
and it's calorie dense. That's brilliant. Yeah. No, I'm obsessed with that. Yeah, it's so funny. Like, we have to be so creative with, the food that we eat on trail, and people will put like Snickers bars and tortillas and call that a meal. Like, I think my main challenge is going to be, trying to work in nutrient dense food as well as just calorically dense food, because, I don't want to come off trail and be like horribly malnutrient, like deficient. So, I'm going to try my best to, keep eating like some fresh foods, I guess, especially in town, like really make an effort to like get my fruits and vegetables. I'm going to bring some vitamins on trail, like a multivite and I don't know, some vitamin D, vitamin B12, like those kinds of things, because apparently I'm deficient in them. So I just like really would like to use this opportunity to like, focus a little bit on health as well as just making sure I'm getting everything I need, which can be challenging on trail. I lost so much weight on the Colorado Trail. I don't want to do that again. So
definitely. Yeah. And you talk about potentially being malnutrient after, but what's the pre look like? What are you doing now to ready your body for whether it's training or nutrients to prepare yourself for 5 months? Yeah,
honestly, like just trying to load up on like calories and nutrients. My dietitian told me to try and gain like 10 pounds before I leave. I'm not really sure how that's going. I don't think well, because I ran Boston I think 3 weeks ago from yesterday. And then I ran a half marathon last weekend. So I'm just kind of like in this recovery mode from all of that. And then also, that was a very stressful training cycle. Like my body, I've never experienced like that level of training stress before. I was like so fatigued and still in grad school. And that's like a very emotionally and mentally draining experience as well. So there was like that background life stress as well as this like training stress I was applying for Boston. And, I ended up running this little half marathon as well. But so I'm kind of in this in between of like recovering from those efforts and also like, just preloading and preparing to get on trail. But the first few weeks on trail are always like, training, you're getting your trail legs back. So I
am curious, as a ultra runner and someone who just did Boston, another small half marathon, like you just said, how do you pace yourself on trail when you're so used to running and trying to beat a PR or whatever it is? How do you now slow yourself to walking?
I know that is something I'm going to have to be thinking about on trail for sure, because I felt like on the Colorado Trail, I was being pushed to like hike a lot faster than I wanted to for the first week. Like we started doing 20s and like most people, kind of ease into those longer days. And so I think on the PCT, I'm planning to just do, maybe 12 to 15 miles to start like first few weeks. And then, after that, just hopefully get my trail legs back from the CT and start hiking bigger days. But there is a little bit of an element of pacing yourself, but also pushing yourself. Like that's one of the coolest experiences about the PCT is like getting so strong and getting so durable. Like I'm really looking forward to being off trail and having that like just crazy trail endurance. Like I'm running 100K in October. So I've got, a few weeks to like recover and prepare for this 100K, but after the PCT, 100K is like, whatever. Sure, we'll do 3 20-mile laps in the desert. Like, that's not a big deal at all,
How open are you to, or excited are you to meeting people on the PCT when you're out there? Is that a big part of your trail experience?
Yes. Like, I do, love meeting people. I'm really looking forward to, like, some good alone time on trail. Like, I'd love to hike by myself for, big parts of my days. I love camping with people. I love also the people that you meet on trail are so interesting and cool. Like everyone has a story of like why they're out there. And so getting to know people and like hear about their story and their why is also really important to me. So I am looking forward to the social aspect of trail a bit. I'm kind of nervous about it, but I'm looking forward to it.
I agree, though. Some of the most amazing people I've ever met are just people that you meet out on the trailhead.
Out on trail, yeah.
And you wouldn't know their story unless you obviously engage with them and get to know them. And there's some pretty special people out there that are out doing these types of things.
Definitely.
But on that note of alone time, you are married. Your husband, Max, is awesome. And he's very calm and has a very relaxed demeanor.
Yeah.
He
He's a planner too. He's my type A to my type B. Oh my gosh. We went on our honeymoon to Patagonia. I didn't even know where we were going, what we were doing. He planned the entire thing and was just like, here's where we're going, and planned literally every single thing. I didn't even know what day we were leaving until like 3 days before. I was like, are we leaving Friday or Saturday? Like, I just had no idea. He's the type A to my type B for sure.
I know some people might be, you mentioned this, that you've gotten some notes about people being confused about you being away from your husband for 5 months.
Yeah, they think I'm divorced.
But you both are very at peace and relaxed about it. Yeah. And I know he has some plans, not solidified yet, but to come visit you in some of the towns that you're going to. What's that going to be like without Max for 5 months?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously I'll miss him. I'm going to miss my dogs so much. I miss them on trips.
Sitting in my lap right now.
Yeah, literally. She's fully, she's so locked in on you right now. I don't know. It's funny. Like, I've definitely been in relationships in the past where I would have felt really anxious about leaving for a few months. And like, I don't in this one. And like, one, I know Max is going to be totally fine on his own. Like, Max is going to be totally fine. He's going to be working. He's building a house. Like, he's going to be so like occupied and happy and busy. Like, I'm actually really excited for him that he gets to have this summer to just like focus on himself. Like, I think it's really good for him and for me to have that time to like develop on our own and like, you know, focus on ourselves, because sometimes that's hard to do when you're in a relationship or married, or, you know, so be it. It can be hard to just really focus on your own stuff. So I'm looking forward to having that time to, I don't know, work on myself, think about what I've got going on. And I think it's good. I think it's good for both of us. I think, you know, it's very like interdependent of us to be able to have our own space, our own time to do things. I think I'm someone who really like, I'm very independent. I need my own time, my own space, and my own goals and things. So like, this is something I really care about and I really want to pursue. And he's like, hell yeah, like, why would I stop you from doing that? And he's super excited for me to chase those goals too. But of course I'll miss him. I'll be sending him in-reach messages, probably begging him to fly to some random trail town. Like, he really is the best emotional and moral support. He has been there for me in so many like ultras. He's been like a really great shoulder for me, and he pushes me in ways I don't want to be pushed sometimes, but that's why I love him. He doesn't let me take the easy way out ever.
He's also a pretty incredible photographer.
Yes.
And he's an outdoor recreator as well. And you two eloped in the mountains around here, right?
Yeah, in Mount Snuffles. Yeah, Mount Snuffles. Yeah. Blue Lakes, which is actually closed this summer.
Oh, wow.
Because of overuse and restoration. I actually fully support it. There's no permit system. And in the summer, there can be like up to 300 people a day that are hiking up there. So the area is just really overused and not well maintained. So yeah, close it down. I like that. I support that idea, actually. I want that to be like a beautiful space forever. And, you know, it'll hold a special memory for me forever. So
definitely. Yeah. One thing I really appreciate about you and admire you for is you're not afraid to live by the no rules philosophy.
No rules.
And not in a reckless way, in a way that challenges norms, that we should live this way. You shouldn't leave your husband for 5 months. You shouldn't live in a van.
Yeah, don't quit your job. Don't blah, blah, blah.
You don't quit your PhD program to go hike a trail.
Oh my God, I'm always fighting the manic accusations. People literally will call me manic on Reddit. I had to get off Reddit because people were like accusing me of being manic. And I'm like, what is wrong with you that you think like a girl who's like in her 20s, like quitting a job and living her life is a manic? I'm like, I think through, that is like the biggest misconception about me, I think, of people who follow me online think I'm like just like on a whim, like doing things. I'm like, I am literally thinking through every decision. I have literally paralyzing anxiety about everything, to the point where like I have to think through every decision that I make like a million times over. I have never ever just like on a whim done something. It's always like weeks to years of thinking about it before I do it. Like quitting my PhD was not something that I just woke up one day and was like, oh, I'm going to go hike the PCT and leave. It was like months and months and months of like finally coming to like this, I'm absolutely certain decision. So I go with my gut, I listen to my intuition, but I'm thinking through everything. That is the biggest misconception about me on the internet, I think.
And I've always known that to be true about you. I mean,
even in sixth grade.
Sixth grade, you were the thing I forgot to bring up at the beginning of this podcast.
Oh no.
In sixth grade, Mac was student council president.
Yes.
And I was her vice president.
We were serving our people. Joey was my second in command. Yeah, we were there doing daily announcements. We were in charge of the whole school, basically.
We were.
We were the coolest kids in school.
And even then, you were making calculated decisions on behalf. I think probably ordering new soccer nets for the soccer goal posts during recess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Important times.
These were really important decisions that we had to make as student council kids at 10 years old.
But you were always, and you are still, very diligent and calculated in what you do. And I think it's reckless to get on PCT without being diligent and reckless. And I know you talked about your planning might not be type A planning, but you know what you're doing. And you've been planning and training, whether it's ultrarunning or trail hiking for years. Yeah. And so,
I'm so comfortable in the outdoors. Like I would not recommend to anyone. Like I think a really big part of my platform is encouraging people to have respect, especially for like distances. Like a lot of people will jump into ultra running without like the appropriate, I think, fear and respect for what that distance really entails. And I'm like very realistic about what that distance looks like and means and the impact it can have on your body. And that's like a really big part of my platform is just that responsibility to be like, hey, don't go do this thing like without the appropriate training. Like there's a really big part of my platform that is appropriate training and talking about training methodology and, encouraging people to use safe practices for anything that they do in the outdoors. I carry a really great level of respect and fear for the outdoors and the things that I do, for sure.
Yeah, and it's important. It's easy to get lost, hurt, a variety of things. I experienced your priority of making sure people are safe last night when you made me drink electrolytes because we were high in altitude up here.
You didn't drink anything. I said, please drink something. We were at 8,200 feet. And I think I care really deeply about people. Like I love pacing at races, like at long races, you can jump in. Usually like halfway, like if it's a 100-miler, it's usually like mile 50. You can jump into the race and like help people like finish the race. I got to do the last 50K of 100K with two of my friends, I think in February. And there's just like, I love kind of having that, I don't know what the word is, like I care so deeply and I want people to succeed. And so like, however I can help people do that, I'm willing to do that. Like I'm like writing training plans for people and giving advice on fueling and nutrition, giving advice on training, giving advice on injuries. I'm like, I'm not like technically qualified to do this. Like I have no certification whatsoever, but I just have, like 10 years of experience in this space now. And I'm like, I've learned a few things that I'm willing to share with, disclaimers on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a creator and someone who recreates, do you feel a sense of responsibility when you do the PCT or you do these runs to make, because people are going to follow you, like people look up to you and admire you, so they want to do stuff that's similar to you. So do you feel a sense of responsibility of like, I have to be abundantly clear about the risks and dangers of these types of activities?
Yeah. Like in a way, yes. In another way, no. Like I do my best to encourage people to go for things in a smart way. Of course, like I want you to be prepared. I want you to have appropriate gear. I don't think it's like cool to like run a marathon without training for it. I don't think it's cool to go on a hike without appropriate gear. I don't think it's cool to go in grizzly bear territory and not appropriately pack your food. Like there's like baseline things where I'm like, okay, these are like the rules and you should follow them to recreate safely for us and other people, of course. But there's also like a even larger like aspect of my community, I guess, that is encouraging people to go beyond just their fear, like not even like the training. It's literally just like a fear of like, I'm afraid of animals. And I think that's because my community is very female. Like my demographic is like 70 or 80% female on my platforms, which like I love. I love having a female community. Like there's nothing better, I think, than having like an inclusive, like female oriented community. And I'm really proud of that. And so there's like a bigger part of this that is just like encouraging, you know, women and people who identify as women to be outdoors and like moving through that fear, because it's healthy and rational to have a fear of scary animals outside. Like that is like our biology. Like that is evolutionary biology, like telling you like, hey, you could get eaten by a bear, you know, that like that makes sense. That's basic survival instincts. And so there's like a big part of my especially in my DMs of people saying like, how do you do this by yourself? How do you do this without being afraid of animals? How do you do this without? And it's like, you know, you just have to make your peace with like the things that could happen and, you know, accept that there's a very small chance that anything would happen, like especially with wildlife. I mean, the bears don't want anything to do with you. They want your food maybe, but they don't want to kill you. Like, they're not really attacking humans to attack humans. So there's like a pretty big part of just like rationalizing and, you know, logicking myself out of like being really afraid. And at this point, it's kind of like, you know, after some of the shit I've done, like if it was going to happen, it would have happened by now probably. So that's what I always tell people.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And actually in a podcast I just did with the bear expert, he had mentioned exactly what you just said of we should be afraid of bears from the perspective of like, that's respectful for the bear.
Yes.
As soon as we stop doing that and we get too comfortable with them and start habituating wildlife, then there's a sense of disrespect that's occurring between you and that animal that ultimately ends not well for the animal, more than likely than you. So I do appreciate that you said that.
Respect, have a healthy amount of respect and fear for distances, for the undertaking you're going through, for the animals and the wildlife. Like have a healthy level of respect and fear, but also like find a way to work through that to like, you know, still do things. I don't think that should keep you from the outdoors, especially, you know, if you're practicing appropriate food storage. And I don't know, if you're in grizzly bear territory, like be loud. Like don't scare a bear. Like these things are.
They know how to use your bear spray. Have it ready.
Have your bear spray accessible. All of the things.
When you're hiking through these amazing places and talking about wildlife, do you feel connected to the ecosystems that you're walking through?
Yeah, it's funny. Like we don't often think of ourselves as part of the ecosystem, probably because we're like top of the food chain or whatever. And, you know, we've got all this technology and all these things, but it's actually the best to be in nature and just think like I'm connected to all of this, you know, like I am a part of all of these things. That's like a very special, almost like spiritual part of this experience for me. I'm not like classically religious or anything, but I do feel like a very deep spiritual connection to nature and the outdoors. And there's no better place to feel that connection than by just fully immersing yourself in it.
How about leave no trace when you're out in these areas?
Yeah, please.
Well, when it comes to these types of trails, and how do you store your waste and make sure everything gets packed out? And I'm sure when you've done these long through hikes, like you've seen other people leave no trace. How do you handle those situations?
I mean, it is really frustrating. I told him yesterday about an experience I had on Whitney where, you know, the campsite where you stay before you like make your final summit push, the only water source had so many wag bags in it. And it's like, this is our drinking water and people are literally pooping into bags and then throwing it into the water. Like you couldn't be bothered to pack out your waste. Like it's just moments like that that really frustrate me. And I think, honestly, I haven't really had an experience where I'm backpacking with someone and they're not practicing leave no trace principles. But I think it is important when you're recreating to call that kind of thing out. Like, don't cut switchbacks. Don't, leave waste at the top of your summit after you eat your snack. Don't feed the wildlife. Like, these are like very, obvious things. And I think they're not that obvious though to a lot of people who don't do much recreating outdoors. A really big thing here in Colorado is hiking the 14ers, and you'll have a lot of like people who aren't, traditionally outdoorsy or like pursuing other outdoor objectives that are like hiking these 14ers that are a 14er, still a 14er, but you look up like easiest 14er and it's like, oh, go climb Bierstadt or go climb, Mount Evans or whatever. And like that I want the outdoors to be more accessible. I think though there's like a basic amount of education that needs to go into that, because especially on those like 14er trails, that's where I see the most like, I don't know, the most chaos. I'm like, dude, you're hiking a 14er in Crocs right now? Like, what the hell? Like, it's like so typical Colorado to go to some of those really well-used trails and just be disappointed in the kind of people that are out and about. But it's part of the thing of making like the outdoors more accessible. But there is like a level of education. So like things like this podcast are so wonderful for educating the people on, like, you need to do an episode on like outdoor etiquette and just be like,
I would love to. And
yeah.
I do think there is a balance of it feeling like we're gatekeeping, but I think educating through the idea of getting to understand context of where you're going makes these experiences so much better. When you go to a 14er with a context of like, this peak was formed via glacial melt,
geology,
or the geology of different areas, or to understand the ecosystem that you're in, the wildlife that roams it, or even the historical the context, like the Oregon Trail goes through here, or whatever it is. Like, I think it makes it so much more special. And in the context of understanding the history, the geology of where you're at, in addition to knowing like what are the do's and don'ts of this area, because now that I know this place was a geological marvel.
Like, we have to make it special for people to like care. That's kind of what it feels like sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. When you're like, wow, this place really has like this historical presence. Yeah. I want to make sure I do everything possible to keep it safe. I think that's the angle that, I like to approach it with people. So it doesn't feel as gatekept. Yeah, because I do think there's, look, I have certainly experienced it over the last 4 years of being outdoors as much as possible. Like, I've felt myself change in the best ways. I've learned a lot about myself.
Totally.
I've pushed myself in areas, the self-struggle of hiking. And I want people to experience that same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we'll lose all of that if it's not done responsibly, right?
Yeah, I know. It's such a balance, because like many of the general population just do not care. Like, to them, it's like, all right, I'm going to walk on this trail. It doesn't matter if I leave my garbage here because I'm never coming back. And it's like, how do you encourage personal responsibility in like that kind of setting?
Definitely.
It's a big question I have.
How do you plan on documenting your journey on the PCT?
Yeah. Probably my phone, probably make some TikToks. Probably, my content is very like informal and very not super polished. So I think I'll just like continue to do that and just like, keep posting about the experience and what's going on. And, I'm trying to balance this level of like safety with, spreading awareness. And like, I haven't told the world like what my start date is, but I'm sure it'll be pretty easy to figure out. So I'm kind of like, from a safety aspect, somewhat concerned with posting, but also like, I don't really feel like someone's gonna like track me down. I shouldn't even say that. I shouldn't even speak that into existence. But yeah, I'm just like, thinking about my personal safety, but also wanting to just like share this experience as it's happening, because it's like so special and something I've dreamed about for so long. And if I can post about this thing and make people feel like it's more accessible to them and, make them feel like it's something they want to do, like, I'm totally fine with that, actually. I think that's fantastic. And PCT has a permit system, so I'm not encouraging like overuse of the trails or anything. So I do like that aspect as well.
Yeah. I like that you said that your content's not polished, because I think I even do this. Like, it's easy to romanticize the outdoors and nature and build these beautiful cinematic videos that really immerse people. Sometimes it's not reality, though. Like, I'm sure you're going to have some really messy days on PCT.
Yes.
And you're a human being, and our bodies react differently to different environments and different things. And so it's not going to always be this romanticized experience for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's made your community special, is because it's authentic and you're authentic with them. And I think this podcast right now speaks to that. I have your dog sitting on my knee.
Oh my God.
And,
dude, your pants are so dirty right now too. Like, she does not. That's insane, actually. Wait, I'll put that on my story. That's so cute.
And so I think, just this conversation we're having now speaks to that, like the rawness of your emotions, of how you feel things, and what you've gone through. And so I'm super stoked to see those raw emotions that you have when you're out on the trail.
Yeah, I have a lot of big feelings. I think that's like, I'm very sensitive. I have a lot of big feelings. And so I'm kind of going in this experience, like, just like willing to kind of face that and feel those feelings and just be human. That's like what attracted me more so than like just the quote unquote physical suffering. Like, what attracted me to ultra running, what attracted me to running 100 milers is this like concept that you can feel every feeling on the spectrum of emotion within a day. Like, give it 100 miles and you will feel everything from like the highest highs to the lowest lows. Like, there was something so attractive to me about that idea of just like embracing that humanity of the experience that really drew me to ultra running. And like, when I'm running hundreds, sometimes I hate it. I'm just like, why did I do this to myself? This is horrible. But then there's other moments of just like appreciating the suffering and appreciating the opportunity to be so human. Like, even things like a really bad breakup, like, you're like so heartbroken, but it's like, you're so human. That's what makes us human, is this like depth of emotion. And so that's like a really powerful factor and something I'm looking forward to sitting with again on the PCT. I haven't had that in my life in a little bit. I'm like a 100 a year kind of gal. So I'm really excited to have a whole summer of just being in the woods and feeling my feelings.
I'm super excited for you, and I'm really proud of you and everything that you've accomplished since
6th grade.
Since our Madam President in Settlers Point Elementary School. It's been really special to see what you've accomplished with your community and in the space, and I think you'll continue to provide that for people when you're out on the PCT. So thanks for doing that.
That's really sweet. Yeah, it's crazy. I get in the imposter syndrome. I can't believe people listen to me.
Yeah, and you have a podcast of your own that is super successful, and
it's kind of crazy. I know. I really got to get back on the podcast grind. I get like every time I post like a Q&A on my stories, I was doing like monthly. I haven't done it in a while. I should probably do it. But people will be like, when's the pod coming back? You better post the podcast again. Like, people like really want the podcast back. And for me, it's like such an emotional, vulnerable like experience. And it just like wasn't something I really wanted to put out there in the world for the last like 2 years. Like, the first year of the pod, like the metrics on the podcast are actually insane. Like, I cannot believe it like had that many downloads, which is crazy. But for me, it's like such a deeply emotional, vulnerable experience. And the last 2 years, I just haven't been in that headspace with school. And I can't even tell you, the last 2 years of this grad program have challenged me so much, like in ways I never thought I would be challenged. And maybe after the PCT, I'll be in a better headspace to talk about things, talk about my life and my feelings again on the internet in a long form way.
That's rad. It's cool to see people connect with you on that. Obviously, your message of being vulnerable connects with people on the podcast. And I've listened to it a couple of times, and it's raw and uncut.
It's real,
And it's awesome. So hopefully for the viewers who love it and listeners that love it, it'll be back after the PCT.
I promise. I'm thinking about it every day. Every time I get a Q&A, I always get people in my DMs like kind of pissed, kind of excited, like, bring it back. You have to bring it back. I'm like, okay, I will. I'll try my best. Well, people always want more.
Yes. They always will.
Yes.
Well, as people I'm sure can guess, based on what we've talked about, you're a very busy human being right now. So I we'll wrap this conversation up with you, but
you gotta go PT.
But anything else on your mind that you want to share before you head off to the PCT? and explore for 5 months.
Yeah. I guess I just want to encourage, if you're already listening to this podcast, you're probably interested in educating yourself on the outdoors and how you can respect this space. So I think, if there's any parting words of wisdom, I think figuring out how to embrace what feels uncomfortable, whether, that's something in your daily life or leaving for a 5-month thru hike. I really just, want to encourage finding that little piece of uncomfortable in your daily life and also respect nature and the outdoors while doing it and work through your fear. It's okay to be afraid, but just work through it. It's okay to be uncomfortable and afraid, and it'll be okay most of the time. So
absolutely.
That's what I want to encourage.
Well, Mak, thank you. And best of luck.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for checking out this edition of the Safe Travels podcast. I really hope you enjoyed it. Mak is a super human being, and I can't wait to see her journey through the Pacific Crest Trail. So if you like this type of content, it would mean a lot to me if you liked, commented, and subscribed. And until next time, safe travels.